we've been wrong about the Messiah. At least should bring a humble question in the heart of Jewish people. Perhaps we've been wrong about the Messiah. So again, reiterate, no other worthy messianic candidates have arisen in the last 2,000 years. The Lubavitcher Hasidim, following their grand rabbi, the Rebbe, Menachem Schneerson, very influential Jewish leader, has spread a certain form of traditional Judaism around the world. It's continued to grow after his death. But it's always very interesting to me when I say, okay, well, so you're telling me he's a messianic candidate. Let's compare his influence, especially we bring in the light of God to the ends of the earth. And you're comparing, the dust in the balance, even if it's very lovely dust, with the weight of Yeshua's life and mission. No other worthy messianic candidates have arisen in the last 2,000 years. Yeshua fulfilled the essential prophecies that had a definite time frame and had to be completed before the second temple was destroyed. And he identifies with us in our suffering. There's a tremendous moving story that Elie Wiesel tells. Some of his Holocaust writing, I relate it in Volume 1 of Answering Jewish Objections to Jesus. I have a whole section there that deals with the Holocaust. And to be perfectly honest, I put the question there because Jews will raise it, and how can you explain the Holocaust? I can't even think about Jesus. What about the Holocaust? And I thought, I need to address it, but how can I possibly address it? Who's worthy to address it? And the magnitude of suffering. And no matter what I say, it's going to be blamed and criticized. And I wrestled with it, and I saved it for the end of the book. And then I really felt God began to open some themes up to me and give me insight. And I ended up writing one night till 5 in the morning, just so overcome with the reality of some of these themes. And Elie Wiesel talks about a horrific instance where a young boy was hung by the Nazis, but because his weight was not heavy enough to break his neck when he was hung, that he just jerked and suffered. The minutes went on and on and on, and everybody watched him dying this agonizing death. Just went on and wouldn't stop, this young Jewish lad. And the question was, where is your God? Where is your God? And Elie Wiesel's response, there. There he is hanging on the gallows. Of course, there's all kinds of meaning that Wiesel had in this. But when I read it, I was just struck by that same picture. Where is your God? There, hanging on a cross. He's not separated from us. He's not just looking down. We don't just have a Messiah that just one day shows up in glory and power. He's one of us. We've been a suffering, rejected, despised, misunderstood people. So is he, as one of us. We've been the subject as Jews of world hatred. So is he, often hated without a cause. The same spirit behind anti-Semitism is the same spirit behind hating Yeshua. We have a Messiah that identifies with us in our suffering and pain and need. And that's why there's so many parallels. That's why there's even a debate. Does Isaiah 53 speak of Jesus, or does it speak of the nation of Israel? Because there's been a parallel of suffering. Only he, however, has brought the healing and redemption. So he is the ultimate example of the suffering, persecuted Jew. Think of it. No Jew has had more influence in world history than him. No Jew has brought more people into the knowledge of God than him. And no name is hated by more people than that name. Interesting, isn't it? Every day, thousands of people around the world are coming to the God of Israel through him. And it's only through Jesus that we, the Jewish people, can fulfill our calling to be a light to the world and a priestly nation. Okay. The answer to us seems so evident, so clear. He has to be the Messiah. It's the testimony of Scripture. But are the Messianic prophecies that clear? Can we really draw the conclusions as powerfully as we did? Can we be that sure? Over the years, I studied these issues much. All the professors I studied with through my college and grad school were not believers in Yeshua. Some of them were somewhat liberal in their thinking and had a critical view of Scripture. And I saw many good points in their interpretation of Scripture, and others I couldn't accept. So I wrestled with these things for years. Some passages I read and reread and read and reread for years and years and years Say, okay, what is this really saying? Is this truly messianic? How should this be interpreted? And just asking God honest questions. I've got a massive library in many languages, and just dive into it and study and get on my face before God with the scriptures open and ask for insight. I'm going to give you 8 principles that on the surface seem very, very simple, but they actually were the result of more than 20 years of consistent meditation on the scripture and asking God for insight from his word. And if you have volume 3 of Answering Jewish Objections to Jesus, this is the volume that focuses on messianic prophecy. We have this as a special appendix beginning on page 189. So I'm going to give you 8 principles for interpreting messianic prophecy. 7 are in the book, and the 8th is here. In fact, you get some previews of some pages from my commentary on Jeremiah, which should be out in a year or two whenever it gets its place in the series, as well as from volume 4 of Jewish Objections, which is due out at the end of this year, 2006. Then there's volume 5, 6, 7, 8, no, hopefully 5 will be done. Okay, first principle. Now again, these are going to seem really simple, but the more you've worked on this, the more profound they're going to be. In fact, let me just state this up front. I have very little scientific background, okay? Obviously, I can read things and understand what seems right and wrong in scientific discussion and evaluate like anyone else, but I have very little scientific training, all right? If someone came up to me, a student in our school of ministry, said, Dr. Brown, I've made a breathtaking discovery. It's going to change the whole face of our understanding of science and the universe, and I've discovered it. And let's say this is decades and decades ago, and they came to me and said, I've discovered the theory of relativity. First, okay, what does that mean? What is the theory of relativity? No, look, here it is. E equals mc squared. And it's going to change the 20th century. What are you going to think? Over E, that's it. E equals mc squared. Nobody ever figured this out before. You just got this. You're the first one. And this is going to change the 20th century. That would be our assumption, but if you had enough scientific knowledge and information and physics and all the other sciences involved with that, you'd read it and see the mark of genius on it. You'd read it and say, wait a second, this, and you start to calculate, and it'd almost be like revelation. Some of these principles hit me in the same way, almost like revelation. They're ridiculously simple. Which when you look at them, it's like, yeah, duh, so. But most of us don't have these presuppositions. So some of these are ridiculously simple, and even when I open them up, they're going to seem simple. Some have tremendous depth, and the more you work with them, the better you'll understand and appreciate them, okay? So first principle, ta-da! Messianic prophecies are not clearly identified as such. Messianic prophecies are not clearly identified as such. You know, sometimes you get into a whole discussion with somebody just based on a wrong presupposition. You're having a whole discussion about the wrong subject. No, we had an appointment for today. No, you had an appointment for yesterday. No. Oh, actually, we're in the wrong place. Sorry, we didn't have an appointment here at all. You get so into it. My first time preaching in Italy, it was 1987. And so we stayed in Italian homes, so that meant someone was translating for us back and forth. I'd pick up just little bits and pieces. Otherwise, everything's back and forth, Italian, English, English, Italian. I'm preaching, they're translating it into Italian. Someone's talking to us, they're translating it into English. Just constant, non